This weekend was the release of Round the Table, Flesh and Blood's first true product aimed at social gaming. And to push it, they partnered with none other than the Professor, champion of gaming for everyone. Now, today's video is not a product review. That exists in several places already, including Prof's own channel. Instead, what interests me is how well this product gels with Commoner. As a product meant to introduce social players to Fab, how well does this integrate with Fab's low barrier, ease of entry Commoner format? And for established players, do we need any of the exclusive commons in this set? A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again. A fabulous cast. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I hope your Bright Lights pre-release weekend has been going well. I was able to make it out 2-1, and let's just say I think it's an interesting format. I should say sealed is an interesting format, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing how draft goes and hoping that, you know, things are maybe a little different, but I know there's a lot of people who had fun as well. So hopefully you had a great time. So tonight specifically, I want to talk about the new Professor set, right? Let's be honest, that's just, I think, what we're going to call it. But specifically, it's Round the Table, which is the social gaming targeted product that released on Friday, kind of headed into this. And, you know, let's be honest, it was a pre-release weekend for a new set and it got buried a little bit. But there's been no shortage of hype around this and this Round the Table product, and I know there's a lot of demand for it. But what I want to look at kind of in the context of this is how it really works with the Commoner format. Now, to do this, we're going to look at a couple different things on it. What I want to do is kind of, in a way, a set review of it, but putting it into context of how that fits in to Commoner, but also where the cards fall and where the demand is. Because if there are cards that are demanded for CC or some of the other formats, then you would see purchasing of this product, which would then make it easier to get singles from this product, which would, in theory, help you get your Commoner stuff cheaper. Right now, I do want to throw up, we do have Commoner Crawl, right? It's a Commoner video. I'm not going to not hype Commoner Crawl. Commoner Crawl series is back in Portland, so Travis from Fad Foundry making this happen as well, with Sean running it in partnership with my own channel. So October 22nd, if you're in the Portland area, go check that out. Our Commoner events are always a great time, very inclusive, and great for new players. So go check that out. All right, so 4 new heroes in this set. Now, I can't help but you know, they're all legal, by the way, in all formats. But are they super playable in all formats? Well, and obviously they're young, so not all formats. But the cards in this set are legal in constructed format, so that's very interesting. I also find it interesting that, you know, just in terms of approach, we now have the Professor is on a card, and we now have Rudy from Alpha Investments on a card. Rudy from Alpha Investment, his card is like super hard to get and not able for everyone to get, and the Professor's is able for everyone to get. So I thought it was kind of funny how both of those cards seem to embody kind of both of their individual approaches to gaming, but I digress. So let's look at our 4 new heroes, and specifically, as we go through this, let's just, out of the gate, they're all Majestics, which mean they are not legal for playing the Commoner format, right? Reminder for folks who might be catching up because you found this for Around the Table, which is awesome. Welcome. Commoner format, you are allowed to use rare heroes, and you are allowed to use rare equipment and weapons in the Commoner format, but anything that goes into your deck must be a common. So you have rares and lower, and token as well, obviously, right? Rare, and by we mean lower, right? So rares, commons, and tokens allowed for everything in your sideboard, let's call it effectively. Okay, we call it the loadout in Flesh and Blood. But you're allowed that, but everything in your deck has to be a common. Okay, so the fact that 3 of these, the 3 new heroes, now Aria, Crimson Haze, is a token, actually has been a token since the very, very beginning of this game. She obviously is already a hero that is already playable in the Commoner format, but these 3 heroes are not. Now, a lot of their stuff is. Okay, so what I want to do at this point, I would like to go through the decks, and they have them grouped, so this is on Flesh and Blood's page. You can go to game product releases, and then you can click on Round the Table, and you get a full gallery of what's in the set. Now, remember I said that for weapons and items, or equipment, excuse me, for weapons and equipment, you can do rare or less. Okay, so that's what we have. So that blue symbol right there is a rare. So the Teklo Blaster, the prof's weapon in this deck, is legal. However, you have a bunch of equipment in his deck that goes, these are equipment evos. So these go into your deck and they make your Teklo Blaster better, right? The whole idea is that you equip the professor with this equipment and it makes his gun better, it makes his deck work better. These, however, are rares, and because these go into your deck, you cannot run this strategy. You cannot run the strategy, right, effectively. And then we also have Apocalypse Automaton. Now, to be clear, one of the cool things about this product is that you get all the copies you need of all of the cards that are in there, right? So if Apocalypse Automaton, if you need 2 copies of that, there's 2 copies in there. It's great. It's awesome. This one, however, even though it's a Majestic and might be sought after, is likely not very playable. It's meant for multiplayer, right? Because you can attack multiple heroes with it, but when you're doing Flesh and Blood's standard constructed format, not super relevant. Right now we go into the commons, and we're not seeing anything else that isn't available in the bulk sets. Right, so now moving down to Brevant. So let's keep in mind again, Brevant, the hero, is not playable in commoner format. His hammer is, because it's a rare, but it specifically refers to Chivalry and Pitch Zone to get +1. Now, Chivalry is essentially a block card or a protect card. It's both. But it works with his ability, and he lets you include a bunch of them in your deck. So functionally, if you compare this to many of the other, like Titan's Fist, for example, there's really just no reason to play this. If you look at his equipment as well, it's playable, but it's not really functional in a 1-to-1 type format. We do then move into some very interesting cards in Brevant's deck, specifically Earthlore Empowerment and Crash Down. These are new to the game via this set. They're exclusive to this set, at least as of now. And we also have these new tower cards where if you have 13 or more attack, it gets something, kind of the pseudo opposite, or kind of in conjunction with the Guardians do. They want to send big attacks. These cards are very interesting, these two specifically from the commoner format, I believe. The one I think is slightly better is Earthlord Empowerment. For 1, you basically play it, and then your next turn you get +3, and your next one costs 1 less. I think that's very good in the commoner format, so these are very relevant. But as far as the rest of the cards go, I don't think there's too much in this that you're going to see in Classic Constructed. Right, moving down to Melody now. This is the new Bard. A lot of people are very excited about her, and I think that's awesome. But she is the only, well, she's actually not the only Bard, but this deck is built around her and her ability. And as of right now, this is not playable in Commoner. So I don't see anything in this. I mean, everything in the deck is, the vast majority of stuff in the deck is meant to support her. She's not playable in the Commoner format. So by and large, we can skip through this. Now, in terms of, actually, I do want to note, like, Final Act is something that in theory would be in high demand in terms of like buying it as a single. That said, you get 2 of them in this product, which is, again, great, but it also means that because she's not playable in CC, where you need 3 copies of a card, people will likely not be buying extra copies of Round the Table, right? To piece out and sell singles up is my point, right? They're not going to have leftover stuff, so that is something to note in terms of at least Melody's deck. Right, moving into the last deck, so Ira Crimson Haze, we've had versions of her before, right? Her version before was kind of just a good stuff, go again ninja, a very fun deck to play. There's some interesting stuff in this. They've very much kind of gone the what we call the kitties route. So what you do is you create these cards called the Crouching Tigers, and you go to town is the idea. Now, there's a couple really good pickups in this deck. The first being Red Bittering Thorns. So if we go down here to Yellow Bittering Thorns, this is a card that if we hit all the way back, as I mentioned, she was in the Welcome deck. Bittering Thorns, 1 for 3 yellow on hit +1. That was the only version of this card that existed, was the 2-pitch version, the yellow version. But now we go back to Red Bittering Thorns, Well, that's interesting, right? So you have a breakpoint attack that threatens on hit. Bittering Thorns, I think, is very good. I think it should be an in-demand card out of this deck. I think it will end up being an in-demand card out of this deck. That's what I'm saying, right? Even if it's only a common, you're still only getting 2 of them in each product. And this is a $70 product, and this is the only way to get this common, which I think is very good. We also have Mask of Three Tails, which is a rare, and I think is relevant to the commoner format, because it's kind of a mini one-time use Mask of Momentum. And that really changes, I think, a lot within the commoner format. There hasn't always been a great headpiece option for ninjas as it is. There are options, but this is better, I think, because now they have to worry about blocking correct, or you can get the card. So very much a mini, kind of a dumbed down, certainly because you have to pop it and you get it once, but it very much hits back to the OG legendary headpiece for the ninjas, which is Mask of Momentum, and I think that's a big deal. Now, one card out of here, which I think is very interesting, is Mauling Key. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. So the Crouching Tigers, the Kitties line, has not been super effective to date, but there's a couple cards in here that I think are relevant, Growl being one of them, and Mauling Key being the other. So this has combo, first off, which is very important from the ninja perspective for blocking, right? Because it would get +2 off like a Flick Flack or something like that. And again, it being a Majestic is relevant in that it's not playable in Commoner, but I think that if folks, there is a Benji Kitties list out there right now in Blitz that's actually pretty cool. I've seen some Ira Kitty lists floating around in Blitz anyway, and I think that this card being a 1/5 with 3 block in combo, I think is going to be in demand. So this is one that folks might be going after, and if it is playable, if this product makes the Kitties playable in CC, going after potentially Growl and certainly Mauling Key, I think is absolutely relevant. As for the rest of the deck, there's nothing here that really pops to me overall in terms of what folks would be after, right? So if we then bring up what I would consider the must buys, okay, for us looking at a commoner, I think that what I have across the screen right now is kind of the gist of this product. Right now, there's not a lot here, but I think Mask of Three Tails is very good. Earth War Empowerment I talked about. Crashdown, maybe not, depending on kind of where you sit. I personally think that +6 is good. Don't get me wrong, but I think that 5 with the resource back really opens up a lot more options to you in that format. Remember, Bravo is one of my mains, is my primary main in the commoner format. I'm absolutely going to be figuring out how to use this card. It still blocks for 3. This card is pretty phenomenal within the format, and I think you want 2 of these. I really like the red version. All right, Bittering Thorns Red, I also want 2 versions of this, or I should say 2 copies of this at least. I kind of want like 19 copies of it because I think it's going to go in a lot of ninja decks. But hopefully this will get reprinted in the future, because this card is a big deal. Mauling Key and Growl we just got done talking about, so I don't want to hit on there. But again, these are the key cards I think that will be driving. So again, Mauling Key and Growl, to be very clear here, are not common or playable, but these are the ones that I think will be kind of driving purchases, or driving conversations, I should say, on the constructed side of the house. So as I move into kind of the wrap up and the review, I should say, of this product, is this something that you as a established player of Flesh and Blood need to buy? I think yes and no. So no, I don't think you need to buy it. That said, I think because of the way that they've designed this product, being relatively friendly for players in terms of not having to, let's compare this to the Dorinthea versus Rhinar product, where folks had to go out and buy 3 copies of it if you wanted a full play set of Glistening Steelblade, right? That drove a lot of, there was the thrust was like the 1/3 front pump for Warrior, and then there was the the sword react for Warrior, and so on, right? If you wanted 3 copies of Glistening Steelblade, you ended up with
6 copies of those. So they were very, very, very cheap on TCG Player, right? In fact, I picked up a bunch of some. I picked up a bunch of some of them for my commoner decks back in the day, right? Just to kind of round them out so I didn't have to move sleeves. But I don't think you're going to have this situation here, right? So, because if you really look at some of this in terms of the fact that you get 2 of all these cards, regardless of the rarity from the secondary market thing, a Bittering Thorns, even though it's a common, is just as rare as a Majestic in this set. So I don't know that you're going to see a bunch of people buying this product just to piece out the cards. And if they do, it's going to be one of those situations where you're paying probably a couple bucks for some of these commons, I would imagine, because they're in demand. So do you need to go buy it? I don't think you do, but I think you need to be aware of the fact that it's going to, I think you're going to want some of the cards in it. So I think you're going to have to be kind of smart and maybe pay attention to what's going on to make sure you can purchase them at a reasonable price. And I really hope the Red Bittering Thorns is printed again. I think that's a really great card. Maybe the best card in the set, honestly. Maybe. So anyway, let me know if you agree with that statement or not. There's some really cool cards in the set, but that Red Bittering Thorns is pretty hot. So anyway, folks, that's kind of my overall take on the product. Let me know, will you be picking one up? Have you already picked one up? I've heard demand for the product is pretty high. So that's awesome, right? Hopefully that's more folks that we're getting into the game that we can convert over to constructed formats or whatever, come out and play with us. So either way, folks, thanks for watching. Nothing else. Go Commando.